In today's session, we're going to be finding out the length of sides of a triangle. So all the questions that we do today will have an X, or it could be any letter, on one of the sides, and you need to work out how long that side is. This will be using all the things we learnt last lesson, labeling triangles, and then how to type it into your calculator. Okay, so start by copying that down, and I would like you to quickly pause the video and label the triangle sides with O, A, and H. Go. To see if you've done it correctly, start by labeling H first, the hypotenuse. That's this side here, the diagonal side. So we can start by putting an H there. Again, I'm using my green labeling colour. Then O for opposite. That's this side here because it's opposite the angle. It's opposite that degrees. So think about what side is the 34 looking at? It's looking at this side here. So the O goes there. A means adjacent or next to because it's next to the 34. And there are your labels. Circle the two pairs. Do it quickly before me. Circle the two groups or the two pairs. By that, I mean there are two bits of info on this side, so circle them to group them together. There's only an A by itself. Don't worry about it, we don't want it. But there are two there, so circle those two as well. Right, now I've written this up the top to make it stand out in purple. So-ka-toa. I've written it a bit differently today. It still means the same thing as last time, but I've written it as a fraction to help us remember that so means S-O-H, but when you write it as a fraction, O goes on top, H goes on bottom. That will be familiar if you remember last lesson, otherwise try and pick it up as we go now. Look what you've circled. You've circled these two. You've circled O and H. Have a look which one it connects with here. O and H. So see if you can remember how to write down what comes next. S stands for sine, then you need to put the angle next to it, and then you need to put an equals sign and a fraction. Have a go at that now. That's what it should look like. Because we circled O and H, that's here, we have to use sine. We always write the angle, or the degrees, next to the word sine. Then we always put an equals sign. And that's where this fraction comes in, OH. Instead of writing O, we put an X. Instead of writing H, we put a 7. Here we are. Okay, I'll put a picture up now. Have a look at this. This is the information that tells you what to do next. If you have a look at the question that you've done, the X is on the top of the fraction. So here's what to do next. You've got a question, you've got an equation, and there is an X on the top of the fraction. What it tells you to do is move the bottom number to the start of the equation. And there's some examples there. You don't have to copy them all down. Maybe just copy down one of them as an example. They're just for you to see what to do. So pause it so you can copy that down. Then when you're ready, come back to the example and do the same thing. Okay, here we are. Now, quickly, if you haven't already, do what the sheet or the page before told you to do. We want to get the X by itself, so you need to move that 7. If you did this, you got that 7 and you moved it over to there, you are correct. Write down what that would look like. When you move it, it looks like that. Now, you've done it, it's at the start. We should put a little times in the middle there. Most calculators can work that out for themselves, so you don't have to put the times in there, but it's good practice if you do. All right, that's it. The calculator will do the rest now. You type that in and you press enter. Don't type in the equals X, okay? You don't have to type in the equals X part. You just type in 7 times sine 34 and it'll have your answer. Give it to 2 decimal places, please. The correct answer is 4.21 centimetres. All right, I'll draw another one next to it. You can have another go. All right, here is our next one. We need to find out how long this side here is. Okay, the X is telling us to find that side. Label your triangle and circle the two groups of information. Do that first. Your labeling should look like this. The H on the diagonal for hypotenuse. That 21 is looking at that side there, so it's opposite, and then that one is next to or adjacent. So when you circle, you've circled these two. You've circled the O and the A. Look back up here, decide whether to use sine, cos or tan. see if you can write out the whole next step. Sine, cos or tan, put the degrees next to it, and put the fraction. If you wrote tan 21 equals x over 8, that is correct. Now, just like you did before, do some moving around and rearrange the equation so the x is all by itself. Moving it around, there's an x on the top, so the instructions from before will work again. That from the bottom needs to move all the way to the start. Looks like that. I'll put a little times in between. Type in your calculator, don't type in that part. Give me the answer to 2 decimal places, please. The correct answer is 3.07 centimetres. Okay, let's try one more like this. Here is our next one. It's the same thing, but you might notice one difference. Here, this doesn't just say degrees, it's got degrees and minutes. Nothing changes with your working out or your setting out. You're just going to be writing something a bit longer when you do the next step over here. Okay, but don't be fooled, nothing changes. Step 1, label the sides with O, A and H and circle the 2 that you want. Alright, here's my labelling. I've circled the 2 that I want. Now decide whether to use sine, cos or tan. You've circled A and H. Write out here what the equation will look like. Here's your equation. Note, because it says 41 degrees, 23 minutes, I've written the whole thing there as well. Other than that, it's the same as before. Use your instructions. There's an x on top of the fraction. Write what the next step will look like. You've got to move this 12. Okay, we did it. We got the x by itself. Now, you need to type this part here, all of that, not the equals x, all of that in the calculator. You need to remember where to find the degrees and the minutes button. It's in your notes from last lesson if you've forgotten. Type all that in. I'll have it to 2 decimal places, please. All right, I did say to 2 decimal places. It was 9.00. You can write that, that's fine, but it just becomes 9 centimetres. All right, we're going to try 2 more examples that look a little bit different now. Okay, here is our next question. I want you to start by doing the same as before. Label the sides with O, A and H, circle the 2 that you want, and if you can, write out your equation. Here's our labelling. Hypotenuse is that one there, we don't want it. We've circled these 2. Now, if you haven't already, write out the equation, decide whether to use sine, cos or tan, see if you can work out why this one's a bit different to the other ones. Alright, this one is a bit different to the other ones because now the x is on the bottom of the fraction, and that will happen sometimes. But it means that our rules from before don't work anymore. So have a look at this slide. Okay, get this copied down in your book. Here is the instructions for what to do when the x is on the bottom of the fraction. You need to do a swap around or a swap places. So pause it and write that down. Then when you're ready, go back to the question and try and do it with our board example. Alright, the instructions are telling us that that x on the bottom has to swap with everything on the other side. Do that now and write down what it would look like. Here's what it looks like. Now your calculator will do the rest. You don't have to type in the x equals part. You just type in 10 over tan 39, give the answer to 2 decimal places. The correct answer is 12.35 centimetres. Now you had to round this one up, so if you got 3, 4, it means you made a rounding mistake. I'll give you one more example, then we're done. Here is our next triangle. Please draw it, then pause to label the sides and circle the ones that you want. Here it is labelled and circled. That 46 is looking at that side there, so it's the opposite. Now, if you've done that correct, choose whether you want sine, cos or tan and write down your equation. Because we have O and H circled, we've chosen sine, and the fraction looks like that. 9 over x. Once again, the x is on the bottom. Do that swapping trick. Write what the next line would look like. And the next line looks like that. So your calculator will find the answer. You don't type in that part, but if you type in the fraction 9 over sine 46, you'll get your answer, 2 decimal places. X equals 12.51 centimetres. Alright, that's it for today's examples. You can work through the book questions now.